Hello, my name is Marty Barigian, and I'd like to talk today about energy, about phone calls and how energy works with phone calls. Now, probably you've all had somebody, you think about somebody and they'll give you a call. That's random. That's random energy. And that's the kind of energy when we're on ground level, which is where you and I are right now. That's the kind of energy we're using. There are different levels of energy, which I'm going to go ahead and explain. But let's stick to the topic today. Let's figure out how energy works, and it's connected to a phone call. I'm going to tell it to you in a story, because throughout history, stories are the form of education. That's how they pass knowledge. Not fables, real stories. Today's story is real. I'm going to start off about telling you when I discovered my energy is different. I've said in the past, and most of you know, that my energy is at 528, which is the loving energy. That's why when we speak together like this, you feel good. You feel good because as I'm talking to you, I'm giving you energy, and it's causing you to be at a 500 level. It's also the level where abundance comes in. So a side benefit is money will start to flow also. I discovered that I had different energy when I was in the third grade. We were doing a English report and an oral English report. And it was my turn to get up. And what I did, I gave a report on every student in the class. I told them about themselves. I told them that what their future would be and this kind of thing. I didn't know that everybody couldn't do that. I got an A on the report, but I also learned a great deal about myself. But in the third grade, I didn't want to be different from everybody else. I was horrified that I wasn't like everybody else. So I shut it down. I still had it. I just refused to recognize it, and I refused to use it for a long time. I would use it unknowingly, but I didn't do it intentionally. So let's fast forward now. I'm in high school. I'm a senior in high school. And student teachers, you know what a student teacher is. A student teacher named Warren Barigian came in. He's the first man I ever saw. My heart went pitter-patter. And I fell head over heels for this young Armenian man. And we went together for about 17 months. I'll tell you a story. His idea of a good date was for me to close my eyes. We're walking down Mays Boulevard, which is a street in Fresno, California, and I would have to trust him because he would be holding my hands and reading me scriptures out of the Gibran. Now, for him, that was a very exciting date. For most young women at that age, boring, and he was a nerd, which he was. He was very, very different. All right. So we're going together, and I'm happy. I really liked him. I wanted to marry him. But I didn't know his family. I didn't know anything about it. He kept me completely separate, although he had been to my house many times. Anyway, I get this phone call from his mother, and she invited me over for tea. Excited? Oh, my goodness. I was so excited because at last I was going to be able to be part of the family. I wanted a family. I wanted the closeness of a family. So I got all dressed up. I really dolled up. And I came over, and she sat me on the couch. And then she pulled the dining room chair over and sat in front of me. So we were like knees to knees. And I thought, well, okay, And she asked me various questions, like what I was going to do in college. And I didn't even plan to go to college. My mother wanted me to be a hairdresser. So she would ask me questions. And finally she got down to the question, your mother's divorced, isn't she? And I said, yes, my mother's divorced. And then she paused a little while and looked at me right in the eyes and said, you're not Armenian, are you? And I said, no, I'm not Armenian. I'm French and Irish and German and English. And she leaned forward in the chair very close and said, you will never marry my son. I was a beautiful young girl. At least I thought I was. I was horrified. I left. And I wrote Warren a letter, and I said, don't ever contact me again. If you do, I'm going to call the FBI, and I'm going to do all kinds of threats. And, like young 17-year-old girls will do. And I broke up with him immediately. He called me later and wanted me to come to Los Angeles. I lived in Fresno. He lived in Fresno also. He wanted me to move to Los Angeles with him and live with him. And I just graduated from high school. I'm 18 years old. And I told my mother, and she says, you know what that'll make you, don't you? I said, what? She says, it'll make you a whore. So I had all this pressure. So I didn't go, and I started college. I started going to, which is now called the Fresno University, I think. It was Fresno State College when I went. And I met the first good-looking man that was attracted to me. I married. He was a tall, gorgeous Greek. And I married him, and we had 2 children. The marriage started off really well. But after a time, he started hitting me and more often until he beat me up 2 or 3 times a week. When you submit to this kind of behavior, being beaten up like that, something happens to the inside of you if you accept it, which I did. Now, I was a college graduate. I had graduated from college. My husband at the time had a nickname for me. You know what my nickname was? Stupid. And you know what I did? I answered to stupid. My self-worth had sunk so low that I had none. I can remember one early afternoon, he became an alcoholic. And I was in the hall bathroom trying to hide from him. And he was beating me, and I had my hands trying to protect my head. And I felt something leave. I felt it. I knew it was leaving. I felt something leave and go out. And I thought, oh my God, he broke my spirit. My spirit is leaving. I didn't know what to do. My spirit didn't leave. It went outside to protect me, but I didn't know that. But I had this attitude during those years of horrible marriage with him. I remembered what Warren's mother had told me, that as a divorced woman, the child of a divorced woman, I would not be able to marry well. So I was determined, as many women in this condition do make those decisions, to stay married no matter what, so that my children could live a better life. Isn't that what parenthood is? I stayed married. I did all of that until my youngest child entered college, and then I filed for divorce. During that time, Warren would call me on the phone all the time. And he said, he'd always tell me, not Warren, excuse me, it was not Warren, it was my first husband. He would call me and he would say, you have 2 choices. You can come back to me, or you can kill yourself. Those are the 2 choices you have. I went through that. It took 2.5 years to get the divorce from him. He took me to court all the time. He didn't want the divorce. In his own way, he loved me very much, but he had a severe problem, which I didn't understand those kind of problems at that time. Of course, I do now, but that was 50 years ago. So that's a little bit about my history. It's also a little bit about understanding what it is to be a battered wife. So I understand because I feel what you feel when you go through trauma. It takes experience. Not that I want you to have that kind of experience, I do not. But it takes an experience and longevity to understand what happens to the human being. How cruel human beings can be to each other. I am so against that. I'm so against, sweetheart, we're all in this together. We're all human beings. It doesn't matter whether my parents were divorced. It doesn't matter what restrictions religion tries to put on you. It doesn't matter what society is trying to place on us. These are our decisions. Our decisions, what we want to do, how we want to treat each other. Excuse me, I don't mean to do that. So I want you to understand, I do feel for you. I am at a place in my life now, but then I have 60 plus years of experience? That's a lot. I have developed over the years a different kind of energy. I'm going to talk to you about levels of energy for just a moment. Then we'll get back to how you can help this, how this can be for you. So we know that normally my energy is at 525, 600. I work in between there. That's where I live. That's where I exist. That's why when I talk to you like this, because that's the energy of love, when I talk to you like this, you feel good. You feel calm. And that calmness stays with you all day. It not only brings calmness to you, which is why I'm making these videos longer, so we can spend enough time together that I've brought you all the way up to a peaceful, loving energy. It's my gift. I'm very happy to do this for you. And because you're reacting so well and are telling me you want me to do this, both in messages and texts and those kind of things, which I read. Please do not email me. They go to email heaven. I get too many. But I do watch my text messages and my messages on Facebook. I do that. So now that we know my energy level is higher, that I work from an energy of love, that energy level also is the energy of abundance. So not only are you benefiting from feeling better about yourself, abundance will start to come in. Yesterday I did a session, a group session, Zoom session. Not that I can do it. My VA got me in it, of course. And I took them to the money tree, which I will do for you also. And three of the people that were on that Zoom session, one of them said, she texted me, she was so excited. She said, I got two $50,000 payments within an hour after that session. And somebody else said, I got money in too. I got 2 new clients, which is money. And somebody else said the same thing. So 3 people just bang, bang, bang. So does it work? You bet it does. That's why people do it. That's why it happens. They wouldn't be following me. I wouldn't be getting these huge amounts of people listening to me if it didn't work. Of course it works. So I wanted you to know a little bit about my background so that you know the purpose of these calls, the purpose of me going live like this, which I don't have a script. I'm just telling you the way I feel, which isn't that the way you want it. So we know that my energy is at 525. Can I go higher? 10 is the highest. So if we're at the energy of 525, which is love, then we go to fulfillment and we go to the highest. Do I ever go higher? Of course I do. When I'm working with a student, let's say that I'm hired and I go to a business and they've got 150 employees or they've got 15 employees, whatever it is. I will work with all the employees. What happens to the business? The business productivity increases dramatically. That's why I want you to be able to do that. I want you to be able to reach out and bring in thousands, help others. Love is, in fact, the strongest emotion out there. There's no question. That's known. Ask anyone, they'll tell you hate is also strong, but love is stronger. That's why whenever there's negative energy around me, I don't worry. I reinforce my energy field, and I don't let them in. Also, on a side note, I want you to because you're beginners and because we want to elevate you further, stay around people as much as you can that are positive. Listen to these kind of messages that are positive. Positive energy brings in positive energy. Negative thoughts, negative energy brings in negative energy. How do you know if somebody is positive or negative? Because they'll come to you with this big smiley face and they've got a course they're going to sell you and it's the answer to all your prayers. Look them in the eyes. Listen to your gut. Your gut's not going to lie to you, my dear. The purpose of your gut is your precognitive behavior. What is that? It's your intuition. It's never going to lie because you have it, plants have it, animals have it, everybody has it. It's the survival of the species. So if the gut's purpose is to make sure the species survives, it's not going to lie, it defeats its purpose. That's why we work so much. And I made you, if I have time, I'll do that today. The purpose of the gut is to survive the species. Trust the gut. Make the gut larger. The larger the gut, the more you can handle. Logic, isn't it? It's absolute logic. All right. Back to phone calls and energy. I did finally divorce my husband. It did take 2.5 years. It took me to court every month, trying to break me down, trying to get me to come back. Even brought in all his brothers from Greece, and they talked to me and said I could not, they forbid me to divorce him. I found my inner strength from somewhere, and I did divorce him. And I went on with my life. Now let's back up during that time. I was married to my first husband for many years, 20, 25 years. During that time, I would get phone calls. You know, hang-ups, wrong number, that kind of thing. I got a lot of them, as I figured everybody did. Now, that was before cell phones. These were landlines. I remember one time I was sitting, I tell you I'm a college graduate? I am. I told you I graduated. I have a degree in business. I have a minor in economics. I like working with numbers. I use both sides of my brain. And so I was at one of the buildings that I owned, and I was going through the books to make sure that they were accurate and everybody was playing on the up and up. And so I get this phone call from this guy, and he says, "You just won an oil portrait, and when can I come and take a picture of you?" I don't need an oil portrait, and I hung up. Well, that was one of Warren's most famous students. I almost hate to say it. I think it was Larry Weiss. And Larry Weiss is the one that wrote Rhinestone Cowboy. And so I hung up on him, not knowingly. And so that's just one of the things that happened that I'll share with you. So I had a waterfront condo at the time that I was living in. I used to watch the University of Washington oarsmen as they went into past my window on their daily practice. I enjoyed that kind of thing. I loved watching them and their preciseness and the team going. And I loved living in that condo too. Anyway, all that time after the divorce, during a month or so, Warren Barigian was on my head. You know, where I can't get his thoughts out of my head. He was just there. I didn't know where he was. I didn't know if he was dead and alive. I didn't know where he lived. I didn't know if he had children. I didn't know anything about him. I had never talked to him in all those years. And so I called my mother. We were talking, and I said, I can't get Warren off my mind. And she said, well, I have his mother's phone number. You want it? I said, hell no. That woman hates me. But I didn't have any choice. I couldn't find his phone number anywhere in Fresno. He wasn't listed. And so I said, all right, give me the number. And I called it, and I called it on the phone. It was ringing, nothing was happening. And so I had call waiting. Do you know what call waiting is? Somebody's calling in, you click it. All right. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'll answer this. And I said, hello. And at the other end of the line was this warm, loving, deep voice. Hello, this is Warren Barigian. We had called each other at exactly the same time, 24 years later. That is how energy works. That's how energy works on a higher level, the level I'm bringing you to, the level of the divine, the level of the source, the level of the grid, the level of the universe, the level of cosmic energy. That's the level I want you at. That's the level. That's why I'm staying on this live video, because I'm bringing you up. I want you to know what it feels like. I want you to know and become accustomed to participating in this level. Breathe. Let's go over a breathing technique. The breathing technique is breathe in through your nose, past your diaphragm, all the way down to your tummy. You'll know it's at your tummy because it'll expand slightly. Now hold it for a very long 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Pretend you have a straw in your mouth and let the air out through that straw in your mouth very slowly. I want you to breathe like that for 2 reasons. When we do energy work like this, the kind of work you and I are going to be doing together, I want you to think of a cell, a single cell, like a gas tank. When you breathe through your diaphragm, which is the way we breathe all day long, and that's all you need, you're filling that gas tank half full of energy. But when we do in-depth cellular work, I need the gas tank completely full. So that's why we breathe all the way down to our tummy. The second reason I want you to do it is when you do that kind of breathing, you slow your heart rate down. When you slow your heart rate down, you automatically relax. You can focus. That fog in your head lifts. My suggestion would be, if you're going to do something, or you have to do a task or meet somebody, and you know it's going to be a little stressful, before you go in, do this breathing 4 times, only 4 times. You'll find that when you go in, you can handle your task with ease. So now that we've gone over the breathing, let's go on to the next part of what I want to teach you. And that is techniques. Techniques, and I'll give you one now. I'll give you one that my students, you know, I've worked with all kinds of people. I'm not a name. First of all, I've signed confidentiality with anybody that's large, so I can't mention names. Larry Weiss, because he's a dear friend, I've known him for 50 years, would not be upset with me if I told him. But normally I don't tell you. Just know, I will tell you if they've gone on TV and thanked me, or like dedicated their album to me, or done those kind of things, because it's public. But otherwise, I'll just tell you what happens. So let's talk about why we do the gratitude prayer, first of all, because it works. But there's 2 times in a 24-hour period that your brain is susceptible to change. Your brain doesn't like change. It likes repetition. It likes habit. All right. The 2 times are when you first wake up in the morning. Your brain is not quite awake and you're not quite asleep. You haven't gone to the bathroom yet. That's when you say the gratitude prayer, because its brain is subject to change. The second time in a 24-hour period that your brain is susceptible to new ideas is just before you go to sleep. The last thing. Do your meditation. Have your water. Take your pills. Whatever you do. The last thing that you do is the gratitude prayer. Your subconscious works all night long. So why not suggest to your subconscious that it works for your benefit? It will change your life. So this is the prayer. It's very simple. All the exercises that I give you, all the homework that I give you will always be very simple. Others are using very similar words and they're charging you for it. Here it is. I am grateful for all the gifts I have received in the past. I am grateful for all the gifts I will receive in the future. Very simple, very easy, very powerful. But my darling, my dear, dear darling, it will only work if you do it. If you don't do it, it won't work. Isn't life easy like that? Another thing that I want you to know that you and I will be doing over our time together is we're going to work on fear and anger, trauma, frustration, anxiety, pressures from family, pressures that are unbearable from family, or church, or school, or society. You have been taught to handle them. What happens when you learn to handle something and you haven't gotten rid of it? Eventually it builds up and it'll explode. That's not what you and I are going to do. Because we work on a divine level, we're not going to learn to handle them. No. We're going to rid your body of them. Those cells are called negative cells. What we do is we turn a negative cell into a positive cell with energy. Everything I do is energy. You are all energy. I am all energy. No one has taken the time to teach you how to do this for yourself with energy. We're going to do it now. I've taught you now the gratitude prayer. There's another prayer I want to teach you. It's a prayer that I use every time I work on anybody, whether it's a high-level CEO, a famous actor or singer, or an addict that's either trying to get off of alcohol or drugs. I'll talk to you about them in a minute. Here's the prayer. Start with your breathing always. Your palms are up, resting gently on your thighs. Your fingers are straight and together, as we don't want energy to flow through them. We want energy to go into the palms of your hands. I am pouring energy into the palms of your hands as we speak. Dear Heavenly Father, it is with humility and gratitude that I offer my body, my soul, my spirit. Run your loving energy through my arms and out my hands so I can give it to these beautiful people. They have received many gifts from you in the past, and they realize you're offering them new gifts as we speak in the form of opportunities. They are preparing themselves so they can accept these new gifts with knowledge, with understanding, with sympathy, with empathy for others, true caring, true loving, with humility and gratitude. I say this prayer for all of us, and I want to remind you, I understand your pain. I understand the pressures that you're in. Let's talk about a couple of people that I've been fortunate enough to work with lately. One has been an alcoholic. He was a professional golfer. He's been an alcoholic for many, many years. I started working with him 8 months ago on the phone, not in person. Well, no, I did have 3 private sessions with him. He flew in. All right. From day one, 8.5 months ago, I talked to him this morning. He has not had 1 drop of alcohol. No medication, no nothing, just his energy and my energy working for the benefit of him. I have another one. Both of them are very current. They're current now. I have another one that is, I don't know if you understand what bipolar is. It's a depression. You can be manic and you can be bipolar. There are several stages of this. Stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4, I have to put them on suicide watch because they're very likely to kill themselves. 1 are easier, and I work with all levels. He is a 4, stage 4 bipolar. His mother, his father, his both sides of the family. A tendency for bipolar is in your DNA. Unfortunate, but it can skip a generation. It did not skip him. So he had that, plus he had extreme alcoholism, trying to fight it, every kind of drugs to wake up, drugs to go to sleep, all kinds of drugs, all of that. It's not that I couldn't do it all at once. It's very hard on the human body. So I started with the results. The condition is this. The results of the condition are the alcoholism and the drugs, trying to cope with the condition. So oftentimes I have to work with the results of the condition before I can actually work with the condition. So we've been working with him. He's doing very well. And I'm probably going to fly in another 30 days and spend a week or so with him to get him start working on the real cause of the problem. Let's talk about cancer. I recently had a cancer patient. Someone had me fly in, and I spent 24 hours with him. And I have lots of these kind, and I enjoy telling the stories. He was stage 4. Most of the cancer patients that come to me are stage 4. The kind of cancer he had, we won't divulge at this time, and who he is, because he's very prominent. And I spent the 24 hours with him. He was very weak, of course, because I was called in to prepare him for going into the light. He didn't want to go, of course. And so I worked with him a week or 10 days later after I was there. He went in for his final checkup. And of course, the doctor was absolutely amazed because the cancer is in remission. They couldn't operate on him before because it was too bad. It was no use operating. They've now scheduled him for an operation which should eliminate all cancer in his body. Now, please don't call me and tell me you have a friend with stage 4 cancer and ask me to work with them. There are conditions under which I do this. Number 1, they have to be ready because it takes their energy and my energy. They have to stay on medication. They have to actually do the homework. Don't ask me to come in and cure somebody because that's what you want. It has to be what they want. I'm giving these examples to you because I want you to know how powerful energy is. I think that I've rambled on enough. I think that you understand. If you like this, if you like me to go live like this and tell you stories and tell you how to do this for yourself, give you information, the way to have me keep doing that is push those buttons. Push the one that says like or follow or share this. If you would share this with somebody, it would warm my heart. And it's the way, if you want to thank me, it's the way you can do it. I've enjoyed our time together. I want you to have a very loving, peaceful afternoon and evening. And we'll talk soon. Thank you. Bye.